Hi, I am Rachel Morgan, a retail sales coach who works with leaders and sales teams to help them maximize their foot traffic, keep their teams motivated, and also increase sales. Today I'm going to chat about my absolute favorite topic, how to handle objections, something I know that all of us personally go through. And in order to have this conversation, I've invited Catherine Beltran to come on here and chat with me. If you're not familiar with Catherine, she is a business coach for new entrepreneurs and struggling entrepreneurs. She helps them go from fear and overwhelm to clarity and success. Catherine has been coaching for more than 15 years, has climbed the corporate ladder personally, and eventually took her experience to become an entrepreneur herself 5 years ago and has not looked back. So I'm so excited to have her here. As we discuss, please make sure to any questions that you have, bring them up. We'll be happy to answer them. And hello! And please, everyone jumping on as well, say hello. Tell us where you're from as well. And Catherine, if you can go ahead and request to join. Perfect. You read my mind. One jumping on. Hello, hello. How's everyone doing? Tell me in the comments. Hello.
Hey!
It's so wonderful to have you here. I know we do many lives together, and it's always such a good conversation, and you're truly such a wealth of knowledge. So
Thank
this is
you.
such a treat.
I love to be here too, here with you. I know that we have done lives together, and yes, you're amazing. So I'm
Oh,
so
so are
happy to be
you.
here.
Thank you. Well, for everyone just listening, where are you from?
Where I'm from, I'm
Mhm.
where I live. I'm from Colombia, but I live in the
That's
United
true.
States for the
Yes.
past, I don't know, 25 plus years, something
Yeah.
around.
You've been all over. You're a traveler. I think we can all relate to that a little bit in one way or another.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, so I'm excited to chat about objections. I think we all have them. Sometimes they scare us because we're like, oh my gosh, what do we say? We're like a deer in the headlights. Like, and we can take it so many different ways, especially personally. So I think that this is a fabulous conversation. But I'm curious, like, what are your thoughts on objections?
So there are different things. So the first one is there is going to be, there are a
Mhm.
specific type of objections that we hear over and over, especially when we jump on calls, right? Or even if you have a brick and mortar space, there are going to be
Mhm.
objections when you have clients. However, for me, objections is also like a measurement, right?
Mhm.
To see if I'm on point with what I'm offering, if I'm on point of listening what they have to say, and if I'm on point of really matching what I have to sell with what the person needs.
Right.
Because I feel that when that happens, the chances that you have objections are really, going to be less than that. And you're going to have a higher chance to close the sale.
Right. I agree with that. I think that well, there's many reasons why we have them, right? But oftentimes if we're not addressing them throughout the sales process, you'll have more of them at the end. So when you pick up on what they are and the common ones, you can start integrating it into your sales process so that by the end they don't have those objections, right? Like it
Correct.
could be the top ones are price, value, I would say time as well, like how much time is this going to take me? Those typically are the three big ones that come up. Wouldn't you say?
Yes, yes. I don't have the time. I don't have the money. Also, another very
Mhm.
common one is I need to check with my
Yeah.
spouse, right? They want to make sure that they want to check with their spouse. And one of the things that I always share with my clients is yes, that's a valid option. And
Hmm.
one of the reasons why they may have to check with their spouse is not just because about the money, because they have to make an
Hmm.
investment or whatever it is. It's because, like in everything in life, probably that other half have learned your habits. So if you have a habit of
Yeah.
buying and spending on courses or coaches or whatever it is, and you don't use it or you don't follow, whatever you're doing, maybe they don't want to be on the same boat. So making sure
Right.
that you are addressing that during that objection, or, many times when you say like, well, what question, your husband or your wife or your partner may have about the investment or what you're trying to buy, right?
Right.
And it's not just like putting them on the spot. Sometimes they need that self-reflection in order for them to
Right.
realize that it's them. So
I agree with that. And I think the big takeaway from what I'm hearing from that is that objections are actually buying signals. It means that when someone has an objection, right, they're actually picturing what it's like to work with you or say yes. But they may have something that gets annoyed, like they need to talk it out with someone that knows them and make sure that this sounds like a good opportunity, or kind of like acceptance that I'm doing this, right? Everyone kind of seeks that in different ways, depending on how you make decisions. But I think that's a really big one. We get really afraid, like when objections come up, that we're like, oh my gosh, I'm being personally rejected and they don't like what I have to say, and so we get in like this fear. But it's actually a good thing when people have them. I think it's almost worse if people don't have any or have any questions at the end.
yes, yes, I totally agree. I think that questions at the end are great. I think that when you have also so many objections over and over, especially on discovery calls, or
Mm-hmm.
many people coming into your store and you have so many objections to that specific seller, that's a self-reflection. Like it's something wrong in the process. So it's something wrong in the in during that discovery call. It's something you're doing something that is that's why you are not having the sale, right? That's why you are not closing the sale when that is happening. So I feel that yes, it's great that they have objections in a way that is
Mm-hmm.
questions, but I feel that if you have the same objections over and over, either you are not listening correctly, either you have not structured that call or that sell in a proper way. I'm not saying that you must have a script, but you must have,
An
a,
outline.
an outline, a process, right? And that's another thing for another life. But
Right.
but yeah, back to you is just it's important. It's important to have objections for you to to know actually what is going on in the other with the other person, and that you're serving them the best that you can.
Right. That's a fabulous point that you brought up too, is that if you keep hearing the same one over and over again, it might be time to reevaluate how you are going about your sales process. Is it something that you're leaving out that maybe should be brought up sooner? Or maybe you're not clear as you thought you were, or as clear as you thought you were. So that can also be some really good market research for you too, is what comes up when you're talking to people, right?
Yeah,
So
correct.
I would, one thing you brought up too, and I'm putting you on the spot here, is some common objections that you do hear. So what do you feel comes up often? Like what specific objections people say? Like you said, I have to talk to my spouse. What else do you feel like you tend to hear?
uh Regarding money, right? If it's especially if you're an online service provider, or even if you go to a jewelry store, right? And if it's a high ticket item, chances are that you have objections, right? So many, like, it's different that you go to get a purse at, I don't know, Target, that
Mm-hmm.
you go to get a purse at Louis Vuitton, right?
Right.
And we say if you are in a budget. So same thing in the online space. When you hire an online service provider, I will say that price, how much it
Mm-hmm.
is one of the objections. And I will say that when it gets to that point, is one, because probably the other person is not ready to invest.
Mm-hmm.
Second, probably, chances are that you don't see 100% the value of what you have to offer.
Yeah.
And they have not seen that transformation happening, or what you are selling to them is really valuable. So yeah, I would say that that will be, the two main points of like people doesn't want to spend, I don't know, $5,000 in a coach.
Right, right. And that's probably more of an internal thing that it doesn't come out as. I would say when people say them to you, it might sound more like, I need to think about it. Let me talk to my spouse. I'm not sure. Let me get back to you, right? Um, and you're like, okay, great. I'm here when you're ready, right? Like that's a very typical response to something like that. But of course they know that you're ready. So how do you recommend? And I can answer that as well. How do you respond to someone that says, well, I need to think about it? Because there's a lot of conflicting thoughts on that.
Yeah, so one of the things is I never get out of a call, like on a discovery call or sales call, with, okay, like if somebody tell you that they have to think about, you have, like if you're a coach or if you're, especially for coaches, you have to dig in, right? It's not like, okay, you have to think about it. There is something that I didn't, express, or going back to what you listen, because if you have not been an active listener, and I know that most people, they
Mm-hmm.
think that they are an active listener, but they are not. So when you go back to those things, you have to keep digging. What is, can I answer to you? What is something else? You mentioned that you would like to be. Another thing, you can take them to the scenario, right? And just ask them, is the price is too expensive? Just be honest with me, right?
Right.
And I'm pretty sure that at that point, the people is going to, to let you know what is going on. And there are different things. If yes, it's a lot of money, but if somebody has to spend to work with a sales coach or with a business coach, $4,000, it's so easy to go back and ask them how much money they want to make a year. And if they want to, make $100,000 a year and they're not making any sales, well, so that is
Right.
costing you $96,000,
Right.
to don't take action in today's call. So it's just like going back to those sales strategies, right? And you're
Right.
the expert on sales, and your coaching skills to make sure that you're calling, closing that sale. And after that, even with the objections, is the role to keep following up, because most of the time people, I see that people is awful following up, right? People just follow up once
Right.
or twice. uh, and you are, if they got objections during the call, and if you are not following up, or just once and let's see what is happening, and you disappear, well, there is going to be somebody else right there in their back, because
Right.
and the other person is going to close the sale. Take several attempts, especially for somebody that didn't buy during the call or didn't buy right, on the spot, to, to
Right. Yeah.
close the
I
sale.
think what you're saying is really a good reminder is that, and we have to, okay, let me back up. I always say this, you probably heard me say this before, is that something changes when we are suddenly the sellers. We forget what it's like to be a customer, right? And
Mm-hmm.
we're all customers at some point. And so we know as consumers, we often don't just go one place. We're researching, we're looking at different options. And so when we finally make the choice to reach out and talk to someone like a business coach, right? We're probably talking to a few other people, right? And so if we're not closing it and we're not coming from this place of service and actively listening, someone else is going to. And that's what I just heard you say. So it's a really good reminder, but not to put the pressure on. So here's a hot tip that I would tell people. I know I'm giving away all my juicy, but and this still takes some thinking, of course, but being that my background is fine jewelry, like, often people are like, what makes this different? This is cheaper over here. Like, I don't understand, or why does this cost more? Or, what people say. So, all I can say is if you know that you're the best at what you do and you do a great job at it, talk about that. Talk about when they go, I need to think about it, tell them what they should be thinking about. So it could sound like, I hear you, absolutely. I would never want you to if you make this decision, I want you to feel really empowered and ready to make it. So here's some things I recommend that you think about when you're hiring a business coach. for example, and then give them a couple points of things to look for, because chances are when they go do the research and they talk to other coaches, they're not going to see those things. They're going to be thinking about it, but they should be things that you do well, right? Without like that you can demonstrate in the moment too. Does that make sense?
Yes,
And
absolutely.
so, and then it makes it such a clear option that you can do that for them. And then why wouldn't they want to work with you? I would say the other thing too, if they need to think about it, say, great, take the time you need. Why don't we schedule a follow-up call? That way you can bring your questions to me that come up in the meantime, and we'll chat through it, and set up that call while you're on them, like while you're still on that original call with them. That way you're following up and you're staying top of mind. But I would encourage you not to wait too long, right, to set up the follow-up call, because if you wait a week, they probably hired someone else.
Yeah,
So
correct.
I know it's a hot tip, but that is an excellent way to address it, but still give them the space to think. And I think that's the thing too. We don't want to feel like we're jumping on people. I know I hear often, and I'm sure you do as well, is like, well, I don't want to demand that they get their spouse on here and chat with me right in the moment. And I don't want to be like, why aren't you buying? And then I start feeling really salesy and sleazy and manipulative. And like, sales is not manipulation at all. It's communication and negotiation, right? But it's not manipulation. It shouldn't feel icky.
Yes, 110%. And I feel that most people, and especially, when they're new and when they're
Mm-hmm.
struggling, I think that sales is a skill that most people lack, at the beginning of
Mm-hmm.
their journey. And it's because of that, because they are afraid to ask for,
Mm-hmm.
for the sale, and they are not selling enough, and they are not having the proper skills. And I know at the beginning it's challenging, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like you sell jewelry,
Mm-hmm.
and you work with people at the store, and like you say, many times we forget that we are consumers as well, right? And sales is what is happening 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
uh, and even like right now, for me as a business owner, as a coach, guess what, I network, I go out and sell.
Yeah.
And when I was in corporate, I climbed the corporate ladder, and I sell, health.
Right.
And also, I get grants. So what do I need to do? I need to sell. I have to sell
Mm-hmm.
why my organization is the best place for you to endorse this grant,
Right.
for example, right? And there are grants that are $1 million. So who you are meeting and what you're saying and how you're pitching, and there's so many things. And as an entrepreneur, there are things that you have to embody, and sales is one of the things that are going to help you to get to the income that you want to make.
Right, right.
So
And handling objections and knowing why people have them. And like, I always like to, okay, there was like this saying we used to say all the time, and it rings so true. It was run to trouble. Like, just deal with it in the moment. Don't run from it. Address it head on. And like, like it could be like the silliest thing that someone is like unsure about too. And if you're like, you had mentioned this earlier, if you are not just asking, just be blunt. Like, well, what are you unsure about? Like, what can we talk about right now? You'll be really surprised, and people will tell you, right?
yes.
And that makes them feel seen and heard. Because you also brought up active listening. That's a great way to actively listen as well. So run to trouble, deal with it. Don't run from it. It's objections, like we said, can be scary, but they can be kind of fun too to answer and
Yes.
handle. So
Yes, is that. And like we mentioned before, like how you can handle the objection, about money, or about,
mm-hmm.
the parent, checking out with the partner, or or another objection that I hear is, I don't know if I have the time for it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that is especially, if people that work, wellness coaches, or if
Right.
you're asking them that they have to do something. I don't know if I have the time to meet once a week, or I don't know if what I to put the time to do what I have to do. But also as well, those objections, sometimes are like red flags for you as a service provider, to see
Mm-hmm.
if that person is really going to be on board, and for you as a business owner to don't just like say yes
Right.
to somebody that you don't want to work with. And those objections
Mm-hmm.
are going, it's a great opportunity for, for you to listen and really make sure that this person is ready for the transformation that you are ready to provide. So
Right. And also, I think that we build it up to be something bigger in our heads. And so, like you just said, I don't know if I'm gonna have the time. Well, how much time do they think it's going to take? It's probably more than what you actually are going to do. So, and they probably have the time too. It might be a time management issue, but that's of course
yeah.
a different topic. But well, Catherine, is there anything else that you would love to add about handling objections that you feel we need to know?
No, I feel that, it's important to just listen to objections. It's
Mhm.
important to know if you're having objections over and over, then maybe it's time to stop and reflect on what what you're doing in your process. But it is it's part of the selling process, and more you handle objections, you start to identify what is the best process to overcome those objections and close the sale.
Yep. Yep, exactly. It's natural, it's part of the process. You should expect them. If you don't get them, you should be concerned. And they're usually a good sign. It means that people are interested in working with you. They just have like one little hurdle they need to get over and address it head on. I love it.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
well, thank you so much, Catherine, for chatting with me today about handling objections. If someone is interested in getting to know you a little bit better or working with you, how can they learn more? How can they find you?
Yes, they can just, send me a DM, and I will return your DM within 24 hours. Uh, and and yeah, so they can go to my website, catherinebeltran.com, and you can check who I am, what I do, and different things that I can help you with. So yeah.
And I will say the one thing about you, Catherine, is that you do operate offline. And so you have a lot of real world experience. Not to say that online isn't real world. That's probably a poor choice of words. But you understand in person and online, which is a very valuable skill set for a business coach, which means that you're agile in your thinking and that you can really help people get to where they need to be. And I think that is so valuable. So valuable. And you
Thank
are
you.
so kind and always so responsive. So if you are looking just to network, connect, or learn or get a little bit more support, Catherine is your person without a doubt. I know she'll treat you amazing and really has your best interest in mind in your business.
Thank
So,
you.
of
Thank you,
course,
Rachel, so much.
yes. So,
All
all
right.
right. Well, thank you so much for being
Thank
here.
you.
And if anyone has additional questions, like we said, reach out. We'll chat.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Thank
Thank
you, Rachel,
you.
for having me. Talk to
Of
you soon.
course.
Bye.
Bye.